I really wanted Vic Fangio to be a successful NFL head coach. I felt that obligation to him. I felt that loyalty to him based off of his time as the Bears defensive coordinator, helping that become an elite unit in the league. You know, I looked at a guy that had a great track record in Chicago, track record in San Francisco of high-level success with the units that he was in charge of, and said, this is a guy that deserves a head coaching opportunity. And once he gets it, I want him to take advantage of it. And unfortunately, after 3 years, he was shown the door, and it was merited. He deserved it. Because while his defenses were good, they certainly weren't elite. And, you know, the way he handled the offense, the quarterback position was less than ideal. Late in the year, when your team's not really playing for much, you're punting in situations that you really should be going for it because what the fuck do you have to lose? Like, yeah, at that point, you got to go, bro. I'm sorry. Like, wish you the best in the future. I'm sure somebody will be smart in the next year and pick him up as a defensive coordinator and reap the benefits of that. But right now, like, he had to go. It wasn't his time anymore. So the Broncos fired him and brought in Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, bringing him into the fold to, you know, go with an offensive first type of mindset, which, you know, fundamentally makes sense based off of the way the league is going, the way the league is trending. And you look at the success of recent coaches, it's the offensive coaches that are enjoying the most success. And when you look at Nathaniel Hackett, this hiring makes a world more sense when you talk about the big splash move that the Denver Broncos made to trade for Russell Wilson and decided they were going to let Russ cook in the mile-high air of Denver. And what's interesting here is for the Denver Broncos, like after Peyton Manning retired, clearly they must have got some type of gun-shy based off of the fact that they drafted Paxton Lynch in the first round several years back, and that did not work out. And instead of drafting another young guy and trying to figure it out that way, they went the piecemeal approach with the Trevor Siemians of the world, the Teddy Bridgewaters of the world. You say, well, they drafted Drew Lock. He was also a second-round pick and overdrafted at that. And, yeah, you could see how that went. And then this past 2021 draft, they were in a position where they could have got their hands on Justin Fields or Mac Jones. They passed on both of them. And you can say what you want, but at some point in time, they had to address the quarterback position no matter what. And to their credit, they did it here. They gave up a lot, but what else did they have to lose? You're in a division with Mahomes and Herbert. And yes, to a lesser degree, Derek Carr. As long as you continue to have the worst quarterback in the division, you're going to be the worst team in the division. Well, the Broncos brought in a franchise guy now. They've got that big difference maker, they hope at least, in Russell Wilson. Not only that, lots of change here for the Broncos. A new head coach, a new coaching staff, new franchise quarterback, new owners as well. One of the Walton kids bought the damn team. So, you know, you're talking about after all those years of ownership by the Bolins, now you've got Walton owning the damn team. So some stability there in the organization, which probably in part reflects the decision to go ahead and give Russell the massive extension that he got. And I mean, you had to. You gave up all those draft picks to get him. You can't just sit there and let that float under the breeze. You might as well get it done now. So you know that Russell Wilson is going to be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos for a long time to come, and we're going to have to see how this all plans out. The team had a little bit of additional activity in the offseason. Obviously, the Russell Wilson news, the Russell Wilson move was the big deal here. They signed Randy Gregory and DJ Jones, Kwan Williams, Billy Turner for that offensive line. But, again, Russell Wilson's the big deal here. And when you look at this Broncos team, what do I like about them heading into 2022? Number one, their running game. With Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, and now you add Russell Wilson into the mix, I'd be absolutely stunned if Nathaniel Hackett, who was involved with the play calling last year in Green Bay, where you had Aaron Jones and you had A.J. Dillon, and you saw what they wanted to do with that team, a lot of 1-2 combination in the backfield, taking some of the pressure off the quarterback. This team's going to want to run the ball quite a bit, and they've got some of the horses, so to speak, to be able to do that. So if this team doesn't finish in the top 3 or 5 in the league in running and rushing yards per game, I'd be absolutely floored and stunned, because that surely looks like a big strength for the team. And then I look at them defensively with the last year's first-round pick, Patrick Surtain, and Justin Simmons. Like, this is a secondary group that's really good and should be able to hang, which you need to have a great secondary when you're in that division. You're taking on Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, and you're taking on freaking Mike Williams and Keenan Allen twice a year as well. And as much as we talk about, well, the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, they still have Travis Kelce, and I guarantee they'll be able to find somebody that will play at a high level for them in that receiving core. So you especially with Mahomes and Herbert and even Derek Carr, like, you got to be able to have a secondary that can hold up, and I think the Broncos do that. And then there's Russell Wilson. Like, he's a big difference maker for them. Sometimes I wonder, like, just how great is Russell Wilson really? We're going to find out here in Denver. Like, now he's in a different situation, different team. Well, we'll see how much value he brings to the table. But especially here in year one, like, he's an upgrade and a massive upgrade for what they've had in recent years. In terms of some concerns I have for this team, when you talk about Russell Wilson, that receiving core. And you could say, well, what about him? I would say, well, it's been a couple of years since they've had a 1,000-yard receiver. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy appear like they could be a fantastic 1-2 combination for Russ and then Albert O at tight end. But that's an awful lot of projection. So it's not me saying they suck. It's saying there's quite a bit of projection there. More so with Jeudy than I think with Cortland Sutton, because we've seen more out of him. Now, if they play up to what they're believed to be, and this Broncos team could be dangerous. That's a big if. And then I look at offensive line consistency. That offensive line I thought was better in 2021, but they had some games where they were really good and some games where they were really bad. And they didn't do a whole lot, like I said, outside of bringing in Billy Turner to address the offensive line. Maybe they didn't need to, but they need more consistency out of the offensive line. And while it didn't hurt them as much in the running game, it certainly, I think, hurt them in terms of pass protection. And, what good is it to bring in Russell Wilson from a situation where at times it felt like he was under siege in Seattle over the years to bring him here, and then it's the same thing. So they're going to need that offensive line to stay healthy and play consistently. In terms of the schedule for this team, I look at some key notable matchups. Obviously, week 1 on Monday night going to Seattle. Russell Wilson immediately coming back home to face his old team, the Seahawks. Should be fascinating for drama, if not for actual on-the-field action. Then week 4, they go to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. There's a chance, to take on a divisional opponent early in the year on the road. You want to find a way to be able to win that game, or at least week 6 against the Chargers. Like, if you're the Broncos, you finished last in the division last year, you got to move up if you're going to have a reasonable shot at the playoffs, you would believe. So that means you're going to have to beat some of these teams. And then late in the season, assuming Russell Wilson's healthy and so on and so forth, that end of the stretch of the schedule isn't exactly pretty. They got to go to Baltimore, host Kansas City, host Arizona, go to the Rams, go to Kansas City, host the Chargers. That's a pretty tough stretch the last 6 games of the season. But Russell Wilson should help with some of that. I don't think he's the difference. I don't think he's the answer. The Broncos, to me, were more than one player away and still remain that. But Russell Wilson was a big player for them to bring in. As far as this team goes, I know some people might be thinking about the Broncos finishing second in this division, maybe even winning this division. I can't go there. I think they could finish third in this division, but I just don't think they're a better team than the Chiefs and the Chargers. I don't, sorry. I think they could absolutely have a shot to get into the playoffs, yes, but I think they're more of a 9-win team. That's probably a year away from really making some noise in that division and in the AFC, personally.